to Cinema Vino.
Yo.
Hi.
Good to have you guys for our next installment in our Back in Time series, looking at movies that are going back in 10-year intervals. We started last week with Napoleon Dynamite in 2004. Now we're heading back to 1994, which now was 30 years ago.
Aye.
Just point of order. Why didn't we do 2014? Was there anything good?
I thought about it. We had just done Birdman, and so it's like, well, we just did a comedy, ish comedy from 2014. So I thought, well, it was easier to hit the exact theme that I was going for with either Anchorman or Napoleon Dynamite were the two choices.
That's fair.
And it's like it just kind of wrote itself going backwards, and especially because we can end with Strange Love.
Yep.
So perfect. It's a perfect set.
Carry on.
So yeah, we're going back to 1994. And again, interestingly enough, like 1994 is like, think about cut back 30 years. It's the Beatles, 64.
Oh, yeah.
That's how long ago it was. We're in black and white TV and Ed Sullivan. Cut back 30 years before that, and it's like we're in the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some great movies, then.
Yeah. Like Young Frankenstein.
Buster Keaton.
So this is another iconic movie that we're looking at. This is an iconic movie, both in cinema history and of the 90s itself. This is one of the defining 90s movies.
Yeah.
And for anybody who dogs on it, it's kind of like what we're talking about off camera with Nirvana. It's like, look at all the imitations that it spawned. How many people tried to remake Pulp Fiction indirectly? You could go back in that time period. There are even the movies that are good, like The Usual Suspects, those are in the wake of Pulp Fiction of trying to do like movies centered on like Los Angeles lowlife.
Can you do another like 90s, iconic 90s movie? Like what do you think other than Pulp Fiction?
Man, I mean, there's quite a few of them. I mean, ironically, another one that competed with this movie would be like this year, Forrest Gump or Shawshank. Shawshank Redemption would be another one.
Yeah, I would say The Matrix.
The Matrix is another one. Yeah. I hate to say it, Titanic is another one.
Yeah,
it's of that time. You know. Yeah. It's just one of those movies. I mean, I think of Jerry Maguire. Hell, I mean, it's like you talk about like quotable movies, Lebowski,
Jurassic Park,
Rain Man.
Rain Man in the 90s.
It was 80s, but it's an iconic movie of that time too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to me, the iconic movie is the one you can just quote instantly or quote a line from it, and people know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So this is Tarantino's second feature film after Reservoir Dogs.
When did Jackie Brown fall?
Jackie Brown's 97, number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
This debuted at Cannes Film Festival, May 21st, 1994. Almost exactly 30 years from when this episode is going to air. This grossed $214 million against a reported budget somewhere around $8 million. It was nominated for Academy Awards for Best Picture and Acting Awards for John Travolta, Samuel Jackson, and Uma Thurman. Quentin Tarantino would share a screenplay Oscar with Roger Avery, who helped come up with the stories. Most of the awards that year went to Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's fair.
Real quickly.
A lot more family friendly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it fits the Oscar mold, too. They love to reward those kind of movies. Pulp Fiction is more of a Cannes Film Festival, Sundance type,
More of a dark horse?
Yeah. It's more of a hit that's they love to be a little edgier with their movies than the Oscars. The Oscars love to play it down the middle. Every now and then they'll pull out a Parasite type movie that, that you wouldn't expect. They'll throw a curveball every now and then.
Parasite was a great movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like they'll reward a movie that's out there on the fringe as opposed to like a typical it's like the Wayans were like, I never learned to read. It's like they love to reward the real conventional movies. Yeah. So it's nice when they do a Parasite type movie that you don't expect. Yeah. Most of the time they're doing like when they gave the award to Coda, and it's like they play it safe. But and then they'll follow that up with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Every now and then they get it right, and every now and then they get it wrong. So it's a mixed bag. So real quick, we'll take a detour, talk about our wine. We're drinking the Stoltman Estate Grown Syrah.
Stoltman.
This is from Ballard Canyon, which is a beautiful spot in California, not too far from Santa Barbara. Kind of on the way between LA and San Francisco, if you're taking the scenic route. Very pretty place, at least from the Google pictures that I saw. I've been to Southern California. I've been to Northern California. I've never been to Santa Barbara. But it looks great. Everywhere I've been in California is beautiful. Which, side note, it's like our little boy, he's 4, he's terrified of storms. We had some bad storms last night, and he always asks my wife, before bed if it's going to storm that night. And so she
Every night?
like he's scared of
Whoa.
storm. And so she'll pull up her
You
phone.
live in the wrong state, my friend.
Yeah, well, and this is the wrong season. She'll pull up the app on her phone, and she'll always like show him, say, it's just nothing. It's clouds, and it's great. And of course, she pulls up the app, and it's like lightning on the app.
Yeah.
So she just scrolls over to her aunt and uncle's house in L.A., and it's like, see, sunny and 72 degrees every day this week. And he's like, oh wow. So
That's pretty smart.
yeah, he was for a rude shock about 2 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably had a rough night last night.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, this is a beautiful spot. It's it's a great area for wine, so they say, and so it's a lot of LA people like to take little day trips to this area for wineries. Stoltman, this is a great Syrah. This is big. It's burly. Ironically, it'll age for different reasons than the Anciano. This has some good, bold fruit to it. I don't know that it'll necessarily get better with age, but it'll sit for a while.
Yeah, this is a 2021, so it's not too old.
No.
No.
And I'd say you could put this away for 5 years easily. I think this will sit for 5 years, and it'll still be really good. It'll mellow out a little more as it gets older. It still has that kind of, I don't know, it's like it has that good peppery flavor to it. That good spice.
Yeah.
So,
It's definitely a bit juicier than
yeah.
juicy.
It's got kind of an edge to it. I like it.
Yeah.
It's got a little more bite than the Spanish wine that we tried.
Really contrasts with the Spanish we just had.
Yeah, this one is zesty. It's big.
Yeah, I like this a lot, actually.
You can tell that the Anciano has been aged because it's mellowed out. It's come down so much. This one is ripe still. It's still got a ways to go.
It's got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's about $25 and should be available in any good wine store that you got around you. So check out the Stoltman estate grown.
Syrah.
Yeah, the Syrah. It is from Ballard Canyon. Sorry, Ballard Canyon. Yeah. So back to Pulp Fiction. This is one of those movies that's like, I'm not sure if you haven't seen it, I don't know how I can describe it. This is like describing one of those big all-time movies like Ghostbusters. Like, if you haven't seen Ghostbusters yet, I don't know what
I can describe Ghostbusters to you though. Like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And that's my first line. Last week, Travis was definitely stealing my notes on purpose. But the first line is the film defies easy description. It's a jumbled narrative with 3 stories featuring very different but intersecting characters. It takes place over a few days in Los Angeles and depicts low to mid-level criminals and their associates. John Travolta and Samuel Jackson play Vincent and Jules, 2 garrulous hitmen assigned to wipe out an entire apartment of young men who have double-crossed their boss. Marcellus Wallace, played by Ving Rhames. Bruce Willis is Butch.
Ving Rhames? Didn't he die?
No, he's still alive.
I think he might be alive.
Yeah, he's still with us. I'm not sure who you're thinking of.
I'm sitting in for Travis today. Yeah. I'm just going to say random people have died.
For the viewers and listeners at home, Travis, especially when we worked at the store, loved to make up random celebrity deaths. Ruben Studdard was one of his go-tos.
I mean, Ving Rhames got the Arby's money, man.
Yeah.
He ain't dying anytime soon.
We have
he is the voice of Arby's, isn't he?
He's thriving.
They have the meats.
Yeah. He's making that Arby's money. So Bruce Willis is Butch, who is a boxer in the midst of a crisis of conscience. Ving Rhames is a kingpin who wants him to throw a fight. Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer play Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, who are 2 inept thieves who decide to knock over the diner that they're sitting at when the movie begins. The film also has a litany of colorful supporting characters, including Eric Stoltz as a heroin dealer, Rosanna Arquette as his wife, and Harvey Keitel as a lethally efficient fix-it man named Winston the Wolf. Blink and you'll miss Steve Buscemi as Buddy Holly in the restaurant Jackrabbit Slim's. He shows up real quick, or you'll miss him when he waits on. You didn't catch that.
He's a little cameo in there?
He's Buddy Holly. He waits on John Travolta and Uma Thurman.
Maybe I did think about that. That was just, my brain just glossed over him.
He brings in the milkshake.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and John Travolta even remarks that Buddy Holly's not much of a waiter.
Yeah, we should have been over in Marilyn Monroe section. Which Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah. And it's just steeped in 50s and 60s nerdery.
It's just such a good quotable movie.
Because he's like, that is Mamie Van Doren. I don't see Jane Mansfield, so she must have the night off. So I've got this movie down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering.
We all do.
And I'm assuming, I'm just going to jump the gun and say this is a 10 for both of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a solid 10.
Well, this is Travis's favorite movie.
Oh, yes.
He quoted this as his favorite.
Well, he's the one who got me to watch it. Like, I never watched it before, and he was the one that was like, I wish he was here. He got me onto it. He was...
What year? About?
God. 96? 96, 97?
You guys have known each other for a long time.
Yeah, too long. But I was like, but
this was like a high school.
Yeah, it was like, am I at 8th grade, 9th grade? And it was like, because I remember he had a poster of Uma and a poster of
John Travolta.
Jules.
Yeah.
With his whole Ezekiel. And
not a real Bible quote, by the way.
I had never seen it, and so I was just like, man. And then eventually, he got it to me, and 10, 100%. Yeah.
So same. We're going to visit this conversation in Blazing Saddles, which we recorded before, but we'll air after. I make the point in that movie that you could ask 5 different people to name their favorite scene, and you'll get 5 different answers, and they're all right. So, what is your favorite scene from this movie?
There's been so many times where it's changed every time. And I recently, when I watched it, and it goes back to what we talked about in Blazing Saddles, there was a use of the N-word quite a bit from the director himself, Quentin Tarantino.
Yes.
What I find it's more of just the scene, the situation, the quotes, and what had happened. It's when they're in there drinking the coffee, it's the bonding situation, and he's talking about what they have to do. And I don't know why I'm not, because the N-word is said a few times. I find that little scene funny, but when Jules says to Quentin Tarantino, he's just like, hey man, we're trying to you don't try my fight. It's like he gets so upset, and it's that whole scene, that whole situation I just find so hilarious, because it is you have these 2 gangsters that are in this house of a presumably non-gangster, and Mr. Wolf comes in, but it's just that little scene with like how it starts.
Just soaked in blood.
They're soaked in blood. They're just, this is some good coffee. And it's like, just that whole scene, just right now.
Don't tell me how good my coffee is. I know how good my coffee is.
Exactly.
Because I buy my goddamn coffee.
But it's just that scene right now, again, and I wouldn't even call it my favorite scene, because the movie is my favorite. I mean, like, that whole thing, that after watching it again, I just thought, damn, you can't, this might be an 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like it just, to me, there was never a dull part where I could be like, oh, like even in Big Lebowski, one of my favorite films of all time, I could get up and go do something with that. With this film, I'm always like,
it's always on.
Even though I know what's going to happen, I was like, I kind of want to see this part. Like, and I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's a whole
perfect.
Yeah. It's like everything's the favorite.
Yeah.
I think my favorite's got to be, and like you said, this whole movie is just, you can't pick a favorite, but if I had to, I'd probably say the Jackrabbit Slims scene, just like start to finish. I love, one of my favorite things to quote, which makes no sense, is when Uma Thurman goes, don't be such a, and just like shapes out a rectangle, and then it just flies off screen, and just the whole conversation while they're at dinner about just the awkward silences, and just that's peak Quentin Tarantino just talking about he is doing coke in a room with a typewriter, and he's just writing out this scene, and somehow it just works on the screen. Like the conversation Reservoir Dogs, where they're just talking about tipping at the restaurant, like the dialogue.
It's just riffing.
And you know he wrote all of those words. None of that's improv. That's just all written in Quentin Tarantino, just words to page.
He hates improv.
Yeah. Because he likes to write all of the words.
Yeah.
Like he's a great writer. He's compulsive about it, and it's so good. And this is one of the peak performances, and why he is so respected.
He flies off the handle when his actors go off script of like, no, I spent a lot of goddamn time.
No, he flies off the handle because he's on cocaine.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
But the Jackrabbit Slims, just like the weird aesthetic, like the vibe is just just funky,
weird,
just funky.
Yeah,
you know. And she's just I'm gonna go powder my nose, and then there's just like 6 women behind her, just like doing makeup, and she's just, God damn. Say God damn.
Blowing snow.
Yeah. But it all culminates with like building the character that is eventually going to snort some heroin that's going to destroy her, which leads to one of the best scenes, which is when she gets resurrected.
Well, ironically, it's like so correct me if I'm wrong, but so she has the heroin, she snorts the heroin after doing cocaine, so basically it's like she's done a speedball.
But she's doing heroin in the amounts that she would do cocaine, which is very different quantities.
Yeah. And she makes that strange rookie mistake of just sniffing or snorting whatever's in front of her.
Yeah.
And not really questioning it.
Yeah. Which, again, early 90s.
Yeah. And it builds to another great scene of like them in Eric Stoltz's house, you know, of like trying to figure out how to revive her with a giant needle.
Are you calling me from a cellular device? Prank call.
And again,
I don't know you.
Yeah, and that's just a great line that gets used. It's like, are you calling from a cellular phone?
I don't know you.
I don't know who this is. Wrong number. Prank call.
And I was like, so I stabbed her 3 times. It's like, no, you stabbed her once.
You got to get through the breastplate.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a marker.
Yeah.
But I still think if I had to pick one line, just one line, and it's an inside joke in the credits too, is when the crime or the robbery is happening in the cafe, and Tim Roth is beating up the owner, right? And he just like pounds him on the counter, and the owner goes, "No, don't hurt me. I'm just a coffee shop." And then he hits him.
Yeah.
And he's credited in the credits as coffee shop.
Just, God.
It's just so dumb.
Yeah.
But I love it.
It's dumb, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love the little moments like where like Travolta is leaving after the overdose. He's dropping off Uma Thurman, and they're talking about like, you know, we shouldn't talk about this anyway. And then, you know, she's like, do you want to hear that joke from my TV show? And then it's like this stupid, you know, where she's like, ketchup. And then she, just to make sure, she repeats like, ketchup. And then she just goes inside. It's just a weird, quiet moment. Like you say, it's like that. It sets up those characters and that little moment.
Yeah.
And it ties a bow on their interaction with each other, you know. It starts off with them going on a date. It ends with him dropping her off after she's nearly died of an overdose. So it's like the craziest date ever, you know. And it's like Bruce Willis, his character. They end up tied up after that. He leaves with his girlfriend or wife or whatever. They leave together again after the craziest situation ever, but it ties that off perfectly. And I love the throwaway moment there where it's like, you know, whose motorcycle is this? Like, it's not a motorcycle. He makes
Chopper.
Twice. He corrects her. It's like, it's not a motorcycle. It's a chopper, baby. Whose chopper is this? Zed. Like, who's Zed? Zed's dead.
Zed's dead, baby.
Zed's dead. It's like, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So this I love little throwaway moments like that in this movie that just like, that you don't see them in other movies. No people.
And this is one of those films too, where it's like you can watch it again, and just something's going to hit you the right way.
Yeah, you're going to get something different every time.
It's just everything's just a little different, and you know, I don't know if I can pick up on anything else, but it's when you start watching a film over and over and over again, it's not even about the dialogue, but it's almost like seeing the actors and how they do it. Like, I think in this one, Samuel L. Jackson, his eyes are just like, just so many things when he's, you know, looking up, when he's, you know, the guy's asking for his wallet, and his eyes just get so big. And, and it just, everything in there, just his face, his acting just makes those words better.
Yeah.
And I think that I noticed that more as like the facial expressions and everything. It's like, you know, I think one of the Travis first told me when we first watched it, he was like, well, after one of the many times we watched it, he's like, you know, the coolest thing about that very beginning scene is like, before everything happens, you know, it's him, John Travolta, Jackson just talking the whole time. They're talking, chatting back and forth. They're like, all right, what time is it? All right. And then he hits him and he was like, all right, get in character. And then Travolta never talks again.
Yeah.
And he always says, we good. But he was like, he rarely ever talks when they're in there. And he was just blathering like a kid, you know, just earlier. And I'm like, yeah, I never really got that.
That's
he was
character.
like, he was like, hey, time to get into character. And I was like, that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What got me this go around was the scene where they come in and Bruce Willis was just meeting with Vin Rames, and Bruce Willis goes up to the bar to buy some cigarettes, and John Travolta's character is there, and he starts kind of goading him a little bit about throwing the fight.
Yeah.
And I never really picked up because he uses like really like subtle jabs, right?
My friend Palooka.
Yeah. You ain't my friend Palooka, and he calls him Punchy.
Yeah.
He's like, what'd you say, friend? He's like, you ain't my friend Palooka, which I didn't realize Palooka was a term for a boxer who's like sloppy or like a bad fighter.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it kind of hit me, and I was like, I'm going to Google that word. And I was like, he's just goading him. This is like old language for like, he's calling him out for being a bad fighter, which builds up to him not throwing the fight ultimately.
Pisses him off.
Yeah.
You can clearly
You can see the part where it pisses him off and he's like, you know what, I'm not going to throw this fight.
Yeah.
Well, and what makes it really cool in that scene too, but tied it in, because like when the first time I saw it, Travis was like, "Oh, what'd you think?" And he was like, "Man, did it throw you off in the time frame? You know, like how it kind of happened is like basically you see John Travolta get shot, but he's still alive at the very end." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I piece it together." But what a great part in that film is like, yeah, he goats him and he's like, "Hey, get over here." And so he gets to go see Ving Rhames, and like, but it's Bruce Willis is shocked to see him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, in his mind, as just someone watching, it's like, did I just kill that dude?
Yeah.
Because it was a scene later, and he was like, just as a viewer mindset, it was like, oh, wait, what just happened? Mm-hmm. He's kind of staring, I'm like, who the hell was that? What did he just say to me?
Yeah.
But we had just seen previously that he had shot him.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I was like, man, that is such a good way of doing that.
Well,
visual.
Yeah.
It's so impressive that this movie is structured in a way that's so nonlinear, but still builds a momentum start to finish. Like,
makes sense.
In a linear movie, you have like that momentum building first act, second act, third act. You don't really have that because this is sort of like jumbled up and chopped and cut.
Yeah.
But like it still builds the momentum from start to finish where you feel like you're building towards something.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
And one thing I would touch on in that diner scene, talking about Samuel L. Jackson, and it's like when Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer robbed the place. It's like, at one point she says the restaurant's ours, and they're cocky and they're doing the Bonnie and Clyde thing. Like, it's like they're playing that again. They're in character, but then Ringo, he puts the gun in Samuel L. Jackson's face, and Samuel Jackson is just like not phased, and he's like, "I hate to shatter your ego, but it's not the first time I've had a gun." In that moment, Tim Roth officially becomes terrified because he's like, "This is not my restaurant.
I've lost my power."
Yeah. And from that point on, he is like a puppy with his tail between his legs. Like, he is a different person.
So in 8th grade is when everyone was like watching this film, and I had yet to see it, but one of our good mutual friends named Judd, one of his favorite lines through all 8th grade, he would just go around saying "garçon means boy," and it was like, it's just like, and like I didn't get it until I saw it, and even then when I saw the movie, I'm like, man, you're stupid. It was like, what a stupid line. But the more I watch it, I'm like, it is so hilarious. It's just like "garçon," and it was just like, it's a waitress who hates her life, and it's like "garçon means boy," and it's like pours it, and then he looks at her like, all right. It's just a funny. It's like to see those little things now.
And what's funny is, I knew Judd before I knew you.
Yeah.
I met Judd in college, and I remember Judd quoting that line.
Oh, just that.
In college.
Yeah.
It's just like, garçon means boy.
Yeah.
So, I think about, when I hear that quote, I think of Judd.
I think I've heard Travis quote that a few times just about stuff.
Which Travis pioneered left field quotes to me. He loves to quote just like the most random point of any movie. And I can't tell you the number of movies, especially in this list of movies we're covering, of like, I'll watch like, God, Travis quotes this movie all the time. You'll hear certain quotes like, this is Travis. Or, this is a Rolodex of his quotes.
Yep.
So, and this movie's definitely got a lot of them.
Yeah.
So what about you? What's your favorite scene?
I mean, it's tough. I love the little interaction between Travolta and Uma Thurman. But, I mean, it's tough. I love, this will be random, I love Christopher Walken. His one scene.
Yeah, great scene. That's a great monologue.
It really is.
It is.
It's like, if I ever wanted to be an actor and I wanted to like do an audition with a monologue, that's it.
Yeah.
I hid the watch. One place I could think of. My ass.
It's the only place I could, it's my ass.
I mean, and that had to have been crafted.
I'll be damned. The hands on this watch.
I mean, it's like, that had to have been crafted for Christopher Walken. That would not have worked for any other actor, it's like, it's your birthright, what are you going to do? It's like, it's just beautiful. It's like, that's one of Walken's best speeches.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's out of the total flashback. It's in the 70s. Otherwise, the movie takes place over a couple of days. This goes back to like Vietnam time period. And it's just like, it's just beautiful. It's just like it's this movie in a nutshell. It's a weird, perfectly crafted monologue. Yep. And it's the perfect actor to deliver it. Oh, it's like Keitel doing the scene and again, it's like, it's Tarantino riffing where it's like, Harvey Keitel's on his way out of the room and Travolta's like, a please would be nice.
Yeah.
And you know,
What did you say?
Yeah.
you know it's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be 4 or 5 minutes of movie, you know, where it's like, pretty please, sugar on top. Watch.
No.
So back to a little bit of what we talked about in Blazing Saddles and a little bit with this. The use of the N-word in this movie is a little bit different than
A little more problematic.
It's a little more problematic.
Yeah.
And to me, what bothered me was Quentin Tarantino wrote this movie, wrote lines for himself saying the N-word as
Aggressively.
the white character saying them, and then he said them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, that's a little weird.
And here's, okay.
It's uncomfy.
Here's my separation between this and Blazing Saddles. In the Blazing Saddles, the use of that word is part of the comedy. It's integrated into the movie as part of the comedy of like, it's making a joke about.
It's like we said, it's the wrong characters are saying, or the right characters are saying it.
Yeah.
The wrong characters are not.
Yeah. And it fits like it's making a joke about how ignorant the white townsfolk are and how stupid they sound.
Yeah.
It fits the overall joke of the film. In this movie, on one hand, it fits the characters, it fits the setting, it fits the era, it fits. But to me, you could have taken all of those out and the movie still would be a 10.
Yeah. Like,
The movie would still be easily a classic without all of it.
Yeah.
That's my one beef with it.
Yeah.
Is you could take all these.
that is true. I think so. It's like,
He threw it in
yeah, it
unnecessary.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it added any, like you said, it didn't add a value. There was no lesson to be learned, and there was no irony. It's like at some point, he would, you're just saying it to say it.
Yeah. And that's something he's always had to address, specifically from Spike Lee. But he's always had to answer for all of his movies being loaded with that word. And it's like every movie he's ever made that I've ever seen, you could have done it just fine without it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's the only problem.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder why he sticks with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's not an essential word.
But it goes back to a little bit of what you were talking about with like shock value.
Yeah.
Some people just find it a little bit funnier to just kind of chuckle at the shock value of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Quentin Tarantino is one of those.
And he's going for the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he overshoots it a bit, but
Real quick, soundtrack. I had the soundtrack as a kid. It was magnificent.
Yeah.
He's a master of vibes.
He's the mixtape. He's the original mixtape guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got, and he is a music nerd. His music nerdery rivals his movie nerdery.
Yeah.
Where you'll have like Kool and the Gang, sitting next to Al Green, sitting next to, they couldn't get, for some reason, Neil Diamond didn't want to give them the rights to Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. So they had to use a cover version of it. And I'm sure Neil Diamond felt stupid once his movie came out.
Yeah.
And made truckloads of money.
Yeah.
But then you got Chuck Berry doing C'est La Vie and the dance sequence. It's like just a deep dive into deep tracks from artists. Even like Ricky Nelson doing Lonesome Town. It's the perfect song to have in the background of Jack Rabbit Slims. It's like Ricky Nelson doing like a solo, like very haunting ballad in the background. It's weird. And I forget, I had some point of like, it's weird that every artist they played at one point had died in a plane crash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, including Ricky Nelson.
Jeez.
It was just a weird little bit of trivia. But
the most iconic song I think out of this movie is like the titular start and finish of the movie.
Miserlou.
Yeah.
Was it They'll Die? The surf anthem from the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you could, like when we played, like we'd do some surf music on Pandora at the ranch at the store where we worked. And it was like, this is Tarantino music.
Oh, yeah.
He's big into California surf music, that kind of Jan and Dean mid 60s surf music.
Yeah.
It fits.
Well, and there's like there's an Instagram page that I follow that's just like deep cut new music, like jazz and like soul. It's a really cool page. It kind of reminds me of like, this is what today's like Quentin Tarantino would be, is like these random deep cuts, like of just these jazz albums.
Hip and ironic.
Yeah. And it's just, he has such a great ear for a vibe, like a sound.
Yeah. Just his audio aesthetic matches his visual. He just has that good taste.
Really, really low. But I think this movie is the peak of that.
Yeah, it is. This is a great soundtrack. But yeah, this has been another episode of Cinema Vino.
Yeah.
We got Taylor Owens.
Yo.
We got Sean Jordan.
Hey.
My name's Todd Wofford. We got Stoltman, Estate Grown, Syrah. good stuff, about $25-$30. This is Ballard Canyon, California. It ages really well, so look for it wherever you buy your wines. Great movies, only drunker, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.